Welcome back with Wild and Free Interior Alaska, where we are finally making our way back out to our cabin after a beautiful journey traveling through Alaska, but we need to get busy because at this point it's the end of July and a winter is not that far off. If you've ever heard, you might have heard me mention on our travels, the fireweed is near the top, which indicates about 6 more weeks once it's done. And we got a lot of work to do, so let's get started.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about what you see behind us here before we show you what exactly went into that. So you've heard us, if you've been following us for a while, that we have a huge task ahead of us, which is sanding and staining our cabin. It was a task we wanted to do last summer, but we ran out of time, so it's a priority this summer, and we're pretty late in the summer getting to it. We've had a lot going on. But we finally figured out the method. So if you have a log cabin and you've been trying to figure out, especially off grid, how you can sand it, we're here to share that information with you because it took us a lot of trial and error and a ton of research before we landed upon the correct tools for the job. So we started out with originally a drill with a sander attachment, a battery operated drill. That did not work. We would get only a tiny little section and the battery would die, and it just wasn't working well at all. We had like the plug-in one, but it wasn't gonna cut it. Not the right method. So those were like an attachment for the drill with like Velcro on regular sander paper. Not ideal, not strong enough. We would be here for like half a year to do the front side. And then we had gotten what is called like an Osborne brush attachment. We got one for a grinder, an angle grinder, and we also got one for a drill, thinking we'd use our plug-in drill as well. Those did not cut it either. They were highly raved about for projects such as ours, but it did not take off the wood at all. Like it just wasn't sanding it. It would go way too fast with the angle grinder and completely like fan out, and the bristles weren't staying where they needed to be. And then we tried with the drill and we had like the same experience, so it just didn't work out. What we finally found that did this, and I know you can only see a small section right now, but this whole front is done and one side, which you will see all of that in progress and exactly how it came to look beautiful like it is right now and other steps that we took. So the solution was this little angle grinder. So it's a 4.5-inch angle grinder. We needed it small enough power to run off of our Ryobi generators because we just have the little suitcase, 1800 running watts Ryobi generator. Cannot power a large angle grinder at all. Just keeps kicking it. So we have this Metabo cheap Amazon, like $50 angle grinder. After we had invested in a DeWalt like 100 and something one plus one, couldn't run it off of our generator, couldn't run it off of our big generator even, which we've had trouble with. So it was to Amazon. So I'll get this close so you can see it. And this can run off of our Ryobi generator just fine. And then what you see here are these flap discs. So I will show you a little bit closer. So they are zirconia flap disc, and they are 40 grit. So that is what we chose. Open the box, show you a fresh one. Oh, I guess I grabbed our new box. We did need to order more. So to do each side, you went through a whole box.
So you can get 30 to 45 minutes-ish off each one, an hour if you really push it, but you really start to notice it taking a lot longer to use at that point.
So these are also on Amazon. So we have 30 total to do the cabin. It hopefully should be enough. We already have this front done in one side, so should work out. So they are 40 grit flap disc zirconia, and this is what the other side looks like, new, not all worn down. And so this combination is the winner to remove all of the old wood. And as we debarked, some of them were not done as well as others. So it ended up also taking off all the little stray bark pieces that we had missed during debarking. So some of them you've kind of seen were kind of brownish still a little bit. So now they're nice and clean. So that was step one in this process, was sanding it all. And it is a messy job. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just sawdust everywhere. We had, little 3M masks and some crappy iPro, but you're still just constantly getting sawdust in your eye, constantly having to take the iPro off and clean the sawdust out of the inside. Wasn't fun, and at the end of it, being out here, we don't have a shower you can jump in. So our little bag shower, when you're just absolutely covered in sawdust, didn't really cut it. Your body's clean enough, but like I had so much sawdust in my hair that even after the shower, I was just running through and just coming back with sawdust. So we got some of the
Tyvek type
coverall suits, gonna hopefully cut
With
down
hoods.
on that as we do the other two sides. Also, just it gets tracked into the cabin, everything gets covered in sawdust.
So much.
So the front's done with the door, so hopefully as we do the other two sides, not as much gets tracked in. But it was a dirty job for sure. It took about 3 hours per side to do, and we did two sides in a day, so 6 hours of just like this, and then you're doing the top.
And you're on a ladder for the other side.
Yeah, and we did the two easiest sides too, so we have the two hardest sides. The back being the most surface area, because it's the same size as the front, but it doesn't have two windows. It only has, it doesn't have three windows and a door. It just has two windows, so there's more surface area. And then that side being, you're gonna have to be on a ladder pretty much the whole time, so you're spending a lot of time shimmying ladders around and everything else.
And I wasn't here, as you'll see, for the first part of it. He had a friend visiting, and he came up and lended a hand, which was really nice. And so they did the dirty job. But now I'm here to do the second half with him, which is not going to happen in one weekend. So after you sand this, there is a process that you need to undergo to open up the pores. So after it's sanded, you have to brush it all off because you got to get all the sawdust out of there. And then we're using Q8 log oil. And so we use the Q8 Clean Start cleaner first. So you mix that up in a hand pump. So you put hot water in here with that. It's granules and it dissolves. And then you spray it down, starting from the bottom, working up. Don't know why, but that's what the instructions say. And you let it sit for about 10 minutes, and it kind of cleans all this. And really the intent is to take off any grime things and excess stuff to open up the pores. Now, if ours had been nicely clean, maybe not recently sanded, and it wasn't so gray, and we were okay applying the color, like maybe right after we'd installed these, if they were all kind of nicely cleaned off, you wouldn't maybe have to do the cleaner because there wasn't anything to, like it helps take rid of mold, mildew, just grime, dirt, muck, and stuff that's kind of settled. So having sanded it, it's like, well, what's the point? Because
Seemed like a giant waste of time.
Because we just opened it. However, it is to clean it all off, completely open the pores, because you want as much as possible to be absorbed in it.
And I could see if you had running water, and you could hook it up to a pressure washer with like a soap attachment and really douse it. But when you're using these little hand pumps that just kind of drizzle it out.
It does recommend hand pump though, so there's got to be a science to it. So after After you clean it with that, then you rinse it with just plain water after. If there's tough spots, you could rub it with a terry cloth, but obviously we just
Yeah, we
cleaned
did
it.
not rub it. It took us a few hours to do the whole process as it was, and to rub the whole thing down was going to
Yeah.
take forever.
So we just sprayed the cleaner on, let it sit, sprayed some water on to run it off, and then we have to let it dry 3 to 5 days, which is perfect timing for us to come back out here this weekend. And so tomorrow we're going to start staining it. So we are staining these two sides, basically a full day of painting. We will also capture that process and share it with you more in depth. But I wanted to talk about what we did to get here before you're about to see it.
Let's get started breaking down the steps as far as sanding. So you heard me explain exactly what to use, but I wanted to keep this realistic because you will see things sped up in the future showing you this breakdown, which honestly is very satisfying to see that happen so fast. But this is not a fast process at all. It's also not clean at all. So as you've heard, there's some lessons learned throughout this. This is just getting started, having no idea what to expect, and we're here to show you what not to do and learn from us. So for starters, wearing the Tyvek suit, huge improvement. Yep, that's him forgetting about his mask. So you'll see that soon where he realizes, oops, did not put that on. This was his first go at it just to see if it was actually going to work out the way that we thought it would based on our little test piece. And it is, as you can see. It's starting to look absolutely gorgeous. But it is a very slow process. The angle grinder is pretty small. The logs are 6 inches and it doesn't cover all of them. So you are moving it around, getting it in every little nook and cranny, every little crevice that you need to rotate it so that it hits it and can start making that progress, getting off the old layer of wood. So much of this yellow that you see is the old layer of wood from when we initially debarked it, and now it's just aged. It hasn't turned gray yet because this side it does get a lot more sun than the back side, which has grayed, which is typical of the wood aging. But this is the old layer that was debarked that looked kind of similar to what you see for the sanded section, but it has aged. Now, to the left side where you see that much darker bark, yeah, that wasn't debarked as well. When we did debark it, it was kind of this yellow hue that over time darkened, and we realized that we didn't actually get all of the bark off in the debarking process of some of these first logs that we did, which was a little rushed, especially as we got closer to the end. So those were also not debarked as well. So if you're debarking and you have like this yellow layer of wood, that's not it. You got to go a little bit deeper, and then over time it's going to look like that kind of golden um, layer that we are removing. The satisfaction of that smile right there, that's when he was realizing how dirty this job was after his first go and needing that mask. Oops. Now I'm going to speed things up a little bit, but as you are well aware now, it is a very slow process. But we did run into some issues where getting into all of those little nooks and crannies was very challenging with the grinder. You can't really angle it too well to reach that without starting to tear up the log that's either above or below as you turn it. So that was kind of a challenge getting in all these tight little spaces, especially over on the edges. But we did the best we could with what we've got and continued to move forward. While things look like they're moving pretty quickly, once the ladder is involved, things slow down a lot because you can only reach so far on the ladder and you have to keep shuffling it along. And of course, it's a slow process anyways as far as how much you are able to get off in that little surface area that you were working on anyways.
About 2 hours in of two people sanding. Got a little over half the wall done, but it's going to slow down now that we are going to have to be on the ladder moving up. But it's going faster than I thought it would, I guess. It's just super messy and not fun, but here we are.
So let's recap this process a little bit. You need an Amazon cheap, affordable angle grinder because you're going to use it a lot, probably wear it out. Granted, it still seems to be working just fine after we've put it through 4 sides, but it's a Metabo 4.5-inch angle grinder. The next thing you need are flap discs for your angle grinder. We used 40 grit, and there's 10 of them in a pack, and we ended up going through 30. Now our cabin is 20 by 20 and about 8 feet, 7.5 or so feet tall before those ends that we're working on right here that you see. So you do the math, but just for your awareness, we did go through about 30 of those on the entire cabin. We are using our Ryobi suitcase generators, so anything similar around that 1800 running watts will power that Metabo angle grinder just fine. You will want a Tyvek suit because it's a super messy, dirty job, and the N95 mask and iPro, which was an absolute pain because it was terrible to see out of those, but that's necessary, or a gas mask works as well. It's also a very loud job, so something that I would recommend that we didn't use that we thought about from lessons learned would be some ear pro or some earplugs of some sort. Time. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time. This is a long, grueling process. It was kind of overwhelming to get started. It did go quicker than we thought it would till we got to this back wall because there was a lot more surface area to cover with there only being 2 windows as opposed to 3 windows and a door. So this backside took a long time. Plus, they weren't debarked as well and they'd seen a lot more weather. Finally, after I got everything in the cabin cleaned up and packed so that once we were done with this, we could head back out, I was able to join my husband. Now, some personal lessons learned. I didn't know that on the grinder, there's a lock so that it stays on. Make sure you familiarize yourself with your machine and utilize that lock because I did the majority of this with my trigger finger down the entire time and it was getting so tiring. And I had to keep like being a contortionist, putting myself in different positions so I could still hold the trigger and get, underneath of the log as it's angled and, in these tight little spaces, but having that lock in place that keeps it on the entire time definitely helped to make this a little bit easier on myself and not so painful on my back, shoulders, and everything else. Granted, it still was definitely a workout. We call all of these activities functional fitness. This backside took around 3.5, 4 hours just to sand it and clean it, which we'll go into the cleaning process, which is step number 2 in the next episode, where we will break down what we mean by that and what we utilize in the next phase of this process. This was the final side of the cabin. Luckily, we saved not such a terrible one for the last. The backside was definitely way longer, took a lot more work. And as you'll see, my husband ended up doing this entire thing by himself. He was kind of dreading having to use a ladder for all of it, but he said it actually went way better than he thought it would as he just tackled each area vertically in little sections. I think he did a tremendous job. I was in the cabin, and you'll see kind of occasionally on the deck, cleaning everything up so that once we were done, we could once again pack up and head out for the week. Once we are done with sanding everything, we then go into the cleaning process. Like I said, we will address that in step 2 of sanding, cleaning, and staining your off-grid cabin. So please join us for that as we divulge everything that goes into that so that you can learn from our mistakes and you can also have success just a little quicker than we did.